Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do something a little bit different today because on my Facebook I've seen a lot of comments saying, not to me, but just, oh, you don't look ill so you can't be ill, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. I've not been well enough to put on my makeup today, but I will explain that. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about my life with mental health issues or invisible illnesses, and yeah, I'm not going to go into it too much, but yeah. Okay, so I currently have 3 diagnoses: depression, anxiety and chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, and they all affect my life in a different way. I got diagnosed with depression in 2011, anxiety in 2013 and CFS in 2015, and as I say, they've all affected my life in different ways. And I'm going to start with the depression because I was diagnosed with that first. I've always been the kind of person who sort of bottles things up until I reach breaking point, and then I'm like, I just sort of cry for about 4 hours. Yeah, so basically there's been some stuff in my life that I'm not prepared to talk about on such a public platform, but a lot of things affected me. And then in October of 2011, just before the first half term of sixth form, my nana's sister died, so my great auntie died, and that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I was dealing with a lot of things at the time, and then that just sent me over, and in the October half term had a breakdown. That was one of the most scariest things I've ever been through. Like, there was just a build-up of emotions, and I was just sobbing, like full-on proper bawling, like Kim Kardashian crying face crying. And this lasted for about 6 hours, and I was so mentally and physically drained from that. I then slept for the next 20 hours, and I never went back to sixth form after that, and my life had kind of never been the same since. I've not been able to work or go back into education since then. My doctor didn't really want to help. But yeah, anyway, a little bit more on that later. It's just, I just sort of didn't really care about anything. I just wanted to be in bed all the time, and I pretty much was. I just sort of slept all the time, or, well, I say slept all the time. I would sleep from like 5 AM to like 1 PM, and that would just be my routine, and I would just do nothing. And that was how I sort of dealt with it. I kind of dealt with it by not dealing with it, and yeah, not good. But yeah, anyway, and then in 2013, 2 years after my first diagnosis, I changed doctors. And the reason I changed doctors was because my old GP was not helping at all, just useless, honestly. And I'd had enough, so I changed surgeries, and it was then that they said that I had anxiety. So not only did I have the depression where I didn't care about anything, I also had the anxiety where I cared too much about everything, and that was really, really hard to deal with. Like, I didn't know how to deal with it. And my new doctor was incredible. He set me up on medication which sort of helped the chemical imbalance in my brain to sort of, because that is what depression is, it's a chemical imbalance. Done research, and I'm getting really emotional, so I'm sorry. And yeah, I'm feeling quite anxious about doing this, but I kind of want to do it at the same time because I think it's important for people to share their stories to sort of beat the stigma a bit. But yeah, anyway, So I was on medication, and he said, I'm gonna let that get into your system and just let things settle down, get things calmed down, and then I want you to come back and we can talk about different sort of treatments and things like that. So that's what we did, and I can't remember exactly what happened because so much has happened in the last few years. So yeah, so I just got to text my mum because she screamed at me for dinner. But yeah, anyway. Sorry. I wanted to do this all one take, so I can't back out. I mean, all of my videos are one take, but anyway, that's relevant. Again, this isn't scripted, I just kind of wanted to talk because I feel like that's what I need to do. So yeah, I started going somewhere for treatment, and it wasn't very helpful because the woman, I was 19 no I wasn't, I was 18 at the time, in 2013, and till I sent the text, sorry, she was probably only my age now, which is 21, and there's nothing worse than going into, like, it wasn't therapy as such, it was it's called guided self-help, but I felt like I was guiding her. She just didn't help me at all, basically. So yeah, and then at that place, we were running late one day, and when I got there, you have to sign in, and on the signing in form saw my dad's name. I'm getting really emotional now. And I don't have anything to do with my dad. I don't want anything to do with my dad for various reasons. He is probably 50% of the reason that I have depression and anxiety, but I'm not ready to talk about that yet. Maybe one day, but I'll be down in a minute.
Okay.
So I saw his name, and if we had been on time, I would have seen him. I don't quite know how I'd react to that, because he did some things that messed me up big time. So yeah, and I didn't go back to that place anyway. And then in December of 2014, I mean, my sleeping's always been bad, but yeah, in December of 2014 I got a cold, and then that turned into the flu, and I was ill like all over Christmas, and in January I slept for, in January 2015 I slept 22 hours a day, every day. I would literally get up to eat and go to the bathroom, and then I'd just go back to bed and sleep. And obviously that's not normal, and I'd been on the waiting list for a chronic fatigue specialist, and I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue, which is basically where you feel so exhausted all the time. And recently I saw a really good description of how chronic fatigue feels, and basically it feels like you've run a marathon with the flu constantly. Like whether you've actually run a marathon or whether you've just laid in bed all day, you feel the same. so I was diagnosed and I got assigned an OT, and she was amazing. I'm not cured. I don't know if I ever will be cured, but she's given me a lot of tips, and I can sort of help not control it, but manage it. That's what I'm looking for. And she's told me things that I didn't know, because obviously she's an expert. And yeah, so yeah, that finished sort of around Christmas, and at the same time she told me of somewhere else to go to help, sort of all three things. And she's also amazing, and I find it really difficult to connect with people, so it's really important for me that I did. And both of these ladies are lovely. I definitely connect better with women than I do with men, probably because issues with my dad, and there's more women in my family anyway. And I don't know, I just get on better with women in terms of my treatment. But yeah. And then my anxiety got a lot worse, because in October my mum had a serious accident and very nearly lost her life. It was a lot more serious than I thought at the time. I was told a couple of months later that she could have died, basically. I don't really want to go into that. So obviously that was massive strain on me. But yeah. So anyway, I'm kind of glad that the OT and my new treatment had a gap, because yeah. But anyway, and I went to the Sidemen football match in June, and there I suffered my first ever panic attack, and I never want to have one again. Basically, because my chronic fatigue stops me from walking very far, and I feel like I've run a marathon and my legs are achy and stuff, I took a crutch just so that I had something to lean on, and it just helps me a little bit. So yeah, anyway, I took my crutch and I couldn't stand very well, and then all of a sudden at the end of the match, if you watched it, you probably saw the crowd was invaded, and I was right at the front in the disabled seating, and I couldn't stand up properly. I just, like, imagine being sat down and then you have all these 6 foot tall men, because that's kind of all I remember seeing, just crowded around you. Like, you literally feel like you're going to get crushed. And obviously, because I couldn't move very fast, I felt even more trapped. So yeah, that wasn't fun. But anyway, got out of that, and the 3 friends that I made there, we were all moved somewhere else so that we weren't sort of crushed. And then we left the stadium through a different exit, because we were all a bit shaken up, and we were leaving towards the exit, and then I just sort of started, my breath sort of, I was like, and then I just started crying, and I didn't really know what was happening, and my friend was like, I think I said, or she said, I think you might be having a panic attack. So she took me back into the stadium, and St John's ambulance guy sort of helped me, and I had some water, and yeah, and then I calmed down, went back out, and then all of a sudden it just started again. And at this, we were stood right in front of the coach where all of the YouTubers were getting on, and it was happening again. I was having a full-on panic attack. They were all on the bus. The bus was about to move, and I literally had to, I was sobbing, had to go to the front of the queue, like, not the queue, but basically there was like barriers around the bus, and everyone was like, yeah. So I had to walk behind the bus as the bus was leaving, and I just saw everyone on the bus staring at me, and I was like, oh no. Well, I wasn't actually. I was like, oh, I need to focus on my breathing. And yeah, that was the first time I'd ever had a panic attack, and then I had 2 in quick succession. They were horrible. Like, I never want to have one of those again. And that, I mean, obviously I wanted to get better before, but my anxiety had never been that bad. So then to have that, it was scary. So yeah. Like, as I said, I know I don't look ill, but I sometimes struggle to get out of bed to just go to the bathroom, and the bathroom is just there, like literally 1 step out of my bed, and I'm there, and I struggle with that sometimes. And I remember being in London once, and I was with my crutch because I was on my own on my way home from something, and someone goes, oh, you don't need that, and tried to grab my crutch, and I'd never ever felt so scared in my life, because I was on my own and I felt vulnerable because I had a crutch. And I don't know, that was kind of the first time I'd ever experienced sort of, well, you don't look ill, and I know I don't look ill, and that is what is so hard. But at the same time, I'm glad I don't look ill, because then I won't get treated differently, and that's what I want. I don't want to be treated differently. Like, I'm aware that I have these conditions and I'm working on it, and yeah, but yeah. So basically the whole point of this video is you don't know what someone has gone through or what they're going through, and I just feel like you just be so careful. I mean, things don't get to me like they used to, like, but there are some people who can't take that, and I just feel like just because someone looks okay doesn't mean they are. So yeah, I'm gonna go now because I'm being screamed at for dinner. But yeah, that was the whole point of this video. Bit mishmash, but didn't really, I don't know, I just felt like I wanted to say something, because I was just getting fed up with seeing loads of people get upset by things, and I know how they feel. And I don't know, YouTube is just such an amazing platform to have a voice and things, and yeah. So yeah, that is it for this week's video. Sorry it's different, but I will see you next week. Bye.